in this presentation, we are going to get a better understanding of our visual acquisition skills. This includes our eye teaming skills, how our eyes work together, and our eye focusing skills, how our eyes adjust to see clearly at various distances. First, let's learn how our eyes work together. When we look at something far away, our eyes aim straight ahead, parallel to each other. But when we look at something close up, like a book, our eyes move towards each other or converge to focus on the object. Both eyes need to point to the same point in space. If they do not, a person will see double. For most of us, this process happens automatically, without thinking about it. Unfortunately, for about 20% of us, our brain must actively work to get our eyes to coordinate in space. I know this looks a little complicated. Let us start with how most of our eyes work with someone who does not have a deficit in eye teaming skills. Our normal resting position is slightly behind what we are looking at in the range from 0 to 4. This is considered perfect eye localization. When we look at things up close, like reading a book or using a phone, our eyes move towards each other or converge. This puts us in the ESO zone, which is considered stress on our visual system because holding this converged position for a long time requires constant effort. Just like holding a heavy bag for too long can tire our arms continuously, converging our eyes can tire them out too. This tiredness is part of what's called visual stamina, the length of time our eyes can work without getting too tired. In the graphic, you can see the range of 24 in each direction is what visual stamina is in a normally functioning visual system. Our eyes return to a straight or slightly diverged position to relax, giving them a break after hard work. Now let's look at what we will see with someone with an eye teaming deficit. During a binocular vision evaluation, the data I collect allows me to understand how each person uses their eyes. This includes where they are localizing their space. They can fall in the ESO zone if their eyes over-converge, or the exo zone if their eyes do not converge enough. These numbers can be low or as high as 50. For someone with an eye that you can see turns in or out, the number is usually greater than 20. Any number outside of the normal, 0 to 4, will cause visual stress for the person. Visual stamina will vary from person to person as well. For some, they see double all the time. This happens if their visual stamina numbers are lower than their localization numbers. For others, as soon as they engage in visual stress, which is converging, they immediately fatigue and see double. In contrast, others may have extraordinarily high visual stamina. Just like you can work out to have really strong muscles to lift very heavy weights. For those who are under constant high levels of visual stress, their eyes are essentially working out to be much stronger than usual. I will often measure their visual stamina to be greater than 40 on the scale. This allows them to continue to work to keep their eyes together despite being under large amounts of visual stress. Here is another diagram to help make sense of what I mean by localization. Visual localization refers to the ability to determine the position of an object in space. Someone with convergence insufficiency will have an exodeation of their eyes. So the person perceives what they are looking at to be behind where it is actually located in space. Their eyes do not converge adequately, causing them to drift outward when doing close-up work. In contrast, a person with convergence excess will have an asodiation of their eyes. This is an overconvergence due to the person perceiving the object to be in front of the actual target. Because think it is closer, their eyes turn too far inward in both cases. The misalignment of the eyes hampers the brain's ability to accurately perceive where an object is located in relation to oneself, which is crucial for tasks like reading, writing, and any activity that requires hand-eye coordination. To put this in terms of sports, a baseball player with convergence insufficiency or an exodeviation will perceive the ball as being further away than it is. This causes a delayed reaction time and late swings. In contrast, a baseball player with convergence excess or an essodeviation perceives the ball as being closer than it actually is. This will cause them to swing too early. Let us move on to the other system involved in visual acquisition skills, the eye focusing system. Our eyes cannot see clearly in the distance and near simultaneously. Our eyes should be relaxed when looking far away and flexed to see up close. The process of seeing our world clearly at different distances is called accommodation. Let us start with how most of our eyes work with someone who does not have a deficit in eye focusing skills. Our normal resting position is slightly behind what we are looking at, the number plus 0.50. This is considered perfect accommodative posture. Our eyes have a certain range of focus where objects still appear clear without needing to continually refocus. By targeting the far end of this buffer focusing slightly behind the actual target, we give our eyes some breathing room in which they don't have to work as hard to maintain clear vision. When we look at something up close, the ciliary muscle around the eye's lens contracts, causing the leadings to become rounder or thicker. This change in the lens shape allows it to focus the light more effectively onto the retina, giving us a clear image of the near object. This puts us in the accommodation zone, in this case where it says excess. Our eyes recover by relaxing the ciliary muscle. This relaxation causes the lens to thin out and flatten, allowing us to refocus on more distant objects and put us back to our buffer at plus 0.50. We want to see balance in the system as well, where the range of the accommodative stamina to be from -3 to plus 2.50. Now, let us look at what we will see with someone with an eye focusing deficit. During an evaluation, I find where a person's focusing system is localized in space. They can fall in the spasm zone if their eyes overfocus, or the paresis zone if their eyes do not focus enough. These numbers can be low or as high as greater than 2.50. Any number outside of the normal, plus 0.50, will cause visual stress for the person. Visual stamina will vary from person to person as well. For some, they see blurry all the time. This happens if their visual stamina numbers are lower than their localization numbers. For others, as they engage in accommodation, they may immediately or over time experience fatigue and see blurry. Accommodative disorders refer to difficulties in the eye's ability to focus clearly on objects, especially when shifting focus between different distances. The various types of accommodative disorders include accommodative insufficiency, which is when there is a paresis of the focusing system in the eyes, causing them to underfocus when looking at near objects. Accommodative excess is when there is a spasm of the focusing system in the eyes, causing them to overfocus when looking at near objects. There are other accommodative disorders, such as ill-sustained accommodation, where a person may initially be able to focus on near objects accurately, but they cannot maintain this focus over time. Accommodative infacility is when a person has difficulty changing focus between near and distant objects. They may experience blurred vision when shifting gaze from one distance to another, like from a book to a board and back. There are both subjective and objective ways of collecting the data during evaluation. So even in very young children, we can get an idea of how they're using their eyes and get an understanding of the symptoms they may be experiencing, even if they cannot communicate it on their own. Functional binocular vision occurs in both systems. The eye teaming and the eye focusing system are matched in space, allowing for single, clear, and comfortable binocular vision. Those who do not suffer from binocular vision dysfunctions can sustain their attention for prolonged periods of time, and in general, do not experience any symptoms outside of fatigue. Any deficits in the binocular visual system regarding eye teaming or eye focusing can cause a person to have double or blurry vision. The over-encompassing term that we use to describe these deficits is called binocular vision disorders. This occurs when the eye teaming and eye focusing systems are mismatched in space, causing blurry and poor double and uncomfortable vision. My goal is to determine where they localize their systems and determine their visual stamina to understand how well they're able to function in their day-to-day life. Depending on the severity of the binocular vision deficit, a person will experience a range of symptoms from not really being symptomatic to having double vision, blurry vision, headaches, and eye strain. Many people feel tired all the time despite getting plenty of rest. This is because their system is constantly working and exerting effort, just like if they constantly had to walk or run all day. As we better understand how our low-level processing, like how our eyes work, impact higher-level processes like attention in our brain. Having a binocular vision deficit has a major impact on our ability to pay attention. If a person is struggling to keep both eyes aligned and in focus, it can make tasks like reading tiring and challenging, causing the individual to lose focus or become easily distracted. You may see they avoid certain tasks. Due to the discomfort and fatigue from trying to maintain focus, children may avoid tasks that require prolonged close-up attention. The visual discomfort can make children fidgety, restless, or quick to abandon tasks requiring sustained visual attention. The extra effort needed to keep the eyes aligned and in focus can lead to general fatigue and irritability. The other high-level process that we're going to put a lot of emphasis on is what is called visual-spatial processing. Binocular vision is the foundation of visual-spatial reasoning. In order for us to truly have a high-level visual-spatial processing, which is what we look for when we're doing IQ tests, we need to have the ability for both eyes to work together effectively to create a single cohesive image. Binocular vision facilitates the formation of depth perception, which is our ability to judge the sense of objects and spatial relationships in a three-dimensional space. To learn more about vision and visual processing disorders, you can head to www.visionlearncenter.com.